I love the 2021 film Luca, but it had its pros and its cons. But first, I will list off the pros. One of the pros was Alberto's really sweet line at the end of the movie, but I'm not going to spoil that for you. I'll let you see that for yourself. The main things that I liked about Luca are that it represented kids from different types of families, number one, and number two, it represented differently abled people like I have never seen Disney do before. So, let's take a closer look. We have Luca Paguro, and Paguro means hermit crab in Italian. All of the sea monster surnames are aquatic animals. Scorfino means redfish, Aragosta means lobster, and a branzino is a European bass. Neat, right? Now, back to Luca. There are overprotective or helicopter parents, and on the other extreme there are uninvolved parents. Luca has one of each, which means that two different kinds of kids can relate to him. Plus, there are couples in real life that are like that, one overprotective and one uninvolved. Then we have Alberto Scorfino, who represents abandoned children, and this is revealed toward the end of the movie. However, his abandonment issues are apparent when he gets jealous of Luca and Giulia forming a friendship. So now we have Giulia Marcovaldo, who is a brave, driven, independent-minded kid who sometimes doesn't fit in. She also represents children of divorce. Or, at least I think that's it. 'Cause, who would leave Massimo, right? He's so sweet, and his name is Italian for the greatest, which he is. And the funny thing is, about Giulia, is that she has these awkward quirks but no shyness about them. So she's basically a reflection of how I was as a kid. So we have Massimo, who is a differently abled person in Luca, as he was born into the world with just one arm. Some people in real life are born that way, so I thought it was cool that Disney represented that. Also, have you noticed the boy with the crutch? You will briefly spot him for a few seconds 3 times in the movie. The coolest part is that he got to be in the Porto Rosso Cup race, namely the eating contest. How nice. So, I thought I'd tell you that before Luca was released, my favorite Disney movie was Brave, because it went against the narrative of teaching children that they needed to date. I liked Luca for a similar reason. Luca, Alberto, and Giulia all stayed just friends. 'Cause hey, the target audience is children. So thank you, writers of Luca, for keeping the dating drama out of a kids' movie. We also have the main antagonist, Ercole Visconti, whose last name is Italian for barons or viscounts. Even though he's supposed to be the bully, there are things that still could have just been left out. Calling people trash, for example, is so last century. Is that really something we want to bring back? In addition, there was a scene that encouraged violence when Ercole punches Alberto in the stomach while having Guido and Ciccio pin him against a wall. Chances are, children are going to emulate that. And is something we want? No way. I was also appalled by a scene that made child abuse look okay. It's when Daniela, Luca's mother, picks up a child over her head and throws that child into the fountain. And the thing is, there are lots of children in real life who are being abused by grown-ups and are already afraid to tell about it. Here we are, making child abuse seem normal in a movie. And is that okay? No way. And Alberto making a catchphrase out of, "What's wrong with you, stupido?" Well, I found this part funny and kind of cute the first several times I watched Luca. I'll have to say, it's really not something we want kids to repeat. Here's a weird part. Ercole was about to take a bite out of his sandwich, and shortly after, he boops Alberto's nose with the sandwich. Mouth, nose, germs. Didn't we learn anything from COVID? Last but not least, there were some underlying messages that you may or may not have caught. Let's look. Alberto acts as Luca's role model. He tries to assert that he's always the one who knows best. I'm pretty much an expert. Just follow my lead. And even when Alberto is proven wrong, he still swears that what he says is right. Does this remind you of anybody? Now let's look at this scene. Chicho, slap Guido. Guido, slap Chicho. Did you notice that Hercule never hits Guido or Chicho, but he tells them to slap each other? Can you think of someone else who never directly harms us, but keeps us at each other's throats? You can also see symbols throughout Porto Rosso of the local culture of killing sea monsters. The statue, the plaques above the doors, Massimo's tattoo. Does this remind you of propaganda and play on fear? And of course, another really big pro about Luca was the animation. I mean, Luca is adorable, as are Alberto and Giulia, and Guido and Chicho. I loved the rendering of the rocks on the beach, number 1 and number 2. The animation and light play on the water were fantastic. I do a bit of animation myself, and I hope that someday I'll be able to animate that well. So, animators of Luca, good job. It was also cool that in a cartoon that takes place in Italy, they actually spoke Italian. And this may sound a little silly, but it inspired me to learn Italian myself. I think that's one way Disney has improved in the past few years. And just one more thing before you go. Did you notice the frequent use of the phrase per mille sardine? It translates to for 1,000 sardines. Considering that Massimo mentioned that he needed more fish in his net for Giulia's entry fee into the race, could this phrase be saying that fish was the most valuable good in Porto Rosso? Also, think of Alberto's comment, that stuff is useless, when prize money is brought up. Is this saying that things only have as much value as we ascribe to them? Or could it be an underlying prediction of our slow transition from the US dollar to cryptocurrency? Just a theory. I'll let you decide for yourself. Do you know why I keep saying number 1 and number 2? Well, if you have seen Luca, you probably know number 1 and number 2. If you have not seen Luca, maybe you should watch it and find out where that is coming from.